It's the year 2150, and humanity has achieved a fragile peace after decades of war, but the quiet is shattered when a massive alien ship enters Earth's orbit. The Arikans, an ancient and technologically advanced species, arrive with an offer that humanity cannot refuse. Their leader, Ambassador Zorith, claims they come in peace and wish to elevate humanity to new heights of existence. Yet, beneath this promise lies an ultimatum that could decide the fate of the entire human race. The United Nations quickly assembles a team to represent humanity in the upcoming First Contact, consisting of Dr. Samantha Juneau, a brilliant but battle-worn diplomat, and Captain Marcus Doyle, a no-nonsense ex-soldier who's been thrust into this diplomatic mission as a military liaison. The team meets at a UN-run space station, where the Arikans' ship hovers ominously in the distance. As they prepare for the first face-to-face encounter, tensions run high. Dr. Juneau is cautious, but hopeful that diplomacy will succeed, while Captain Doyle, with his military background, is deeply skeptical about the peacefulness of the Arikans. The story opens with a mixture of awe, fear, and anticipation. Key character developments. Dr. Samantha Juneau, a seasoned diplomat in her early 40s, Juneau is poised, intelligent, and deeply committed to her work. Despite having spent the majority of her career resolving diplomatic crises, this is her first major intergalactic negotiation. Her past has been filled with failure, as many of her previous peace talks resulted in either stalemates or escalations. Juneau carries the weight of these failures with her, but the chance to represent humanity in the face of First Contact is both an opportunity and a terrifying responsibility. Captain Marcus Doyle. In his late 30s, Doyle is a former Special Forces officer with a sharp tactical mind and a deep distrust of anything he can immediately control. He is gruff, pragmatic, and more at home in a combat zone than a negotiation room. Having served on countless missions where the stakes were life or death, Doyle's skepticism about diplomacy runs deep. He's here because of his military experience, and while he understands the value of working with the Arikans, he's also prepared for the worst-case scenario, a bloody conflict. Unlike Juneau, he sees every situation as a potential battlefield. The juxtaposition of these two characters creates a dynamic tension that will shape their actions throughout the story. Juneau's idealism and Doyle's realism play off each other as they try to find common ground. Major conflicts or turning points. First contact tension. When the Arikans finally make their first official contact, the team aboard the space station is awestruck. The alien ship is immense, several kilometers long and bristling with advanced weaponry. Yet it remains silent, observing Earth from a distance. The team's first meeting is with an emissary of the Arikans, a dignified creature named Zorith, who communicates not through speech, but via complex holograms and telepathic suggestions. These images are meant to convey both emotion and information, but their meaning is difficult for the humans to decipher at first. Humanity's response. As the Arikans' message is being translated, the UN security forces are on high alert. Dr. Juneau insists on a peaceful, diplomatic approach, but Captain Doyle warns that the Arikans may have a hidden agenda. Humanity, he points out, has been the victim of alien aggression before, and not all extraterrestrial species can be trusted. While Juneau argues for caution, Doyle insists that they prepare for the worst, especially since the Arikans have insisted on a direct meeting rather than using intermediary communication channels. A disastrous incident. The situation takes a turn when an unexpected miscommunication occurs. The Arikans' ambassador, Zorith, attempts to initiate a ritual greeting, which, in human terms, seems like an aggressive gesture. A highly charged energy beam bursts from Zorith's body, and in the chaos, one of the human soldiers mistakenly fires a warning shot. This results in an unintentional exchange of fire, with a brief but terrifying gunfight breaking out. The aliens' technology, while non-lethal, disrupts the human systems, and the space station suffers minor damage. This initial misunderstanding sets the tone for the rest of the encounter. There's a fragile balance between diplomacy and combat. The Arikans offer, after the tense standoff is resolved, Zorith calms the situation by offering humanity a bold proposition. He reveals that the Arikans have been watching Earth for centuries, and they believe humanity has the potential to join the intergalactic community of advanced civilizations. They offer to share their technology with humanity, technology that could eliminate hunger, disease, and even death. However, the offer comes with a catch. Humanity must agree to elevate itself by merging with Arikans' technology, effectively giving up a significant portion of its independence. Failure to comply, Zorath warns, will result in Earth's destruction. The ultimatum is clear: cooperate or die. Emotional or thematic beats. Fear versus hope. Humanity is caught in a paradox. The offer of Arikans' technology could end suffering, but at what cost? The theme of whether it's better to retain one's freedom or to sacrifice it for the greater good runs throughout the chapter. Dr. Juno is torn between the possibilities for peace and the fear that humanity could lose its identity in the process. Captain Doyle, however, remains resolute. His philosophy is simple: they can't trust the aliens, and they shouldn't rely on them. He sees the offer as a veiled threat, not an opportunity. Human resilience. Despite the overwhelming power of the Arikans, humanity's response is one of resilience. In their moment of uncertainty, the human team members rally together. Even as they face an impossible decision, they find strength in each other. Captain Doyle's leadership, while brusque, helps unify the human team, and Dr. Juno's ability to remain calm under pressure allows her to guide the negotiations forward. This initial sense of unity becomes a core theme as the story progresses. Relevant world-building elements. The Arikans' ship and technology. The alien ship is a marvel of alien engineering, made of a reflective black material that seems to shift with the stars. It hums with energy, but its design is unlike anything human engineers have ever seen. Their technology is far beyond humanity's: energy weapons, gravity-manipulating devices, and self-replicating machines capable of instant planetary-scale construction. The idea that the Arikans could elevate humanity's technological capabilities to the point where disease, aging, and hunger are eradicated is both thrilling and terrifying. Human space infrastructure. The space station is a product of over a century of human cooperation and technological advancement. While it's a marvel in its own right, housing humans and various other species in its vast habitat, it pales in comparison to the alien ship in terms of sheer power. However, the station houses a plethora of defensive systems, including railguns and energy shields designed to repel any hostile force. Yet, the weapons seem impotent when compared to the Arikans' technological might. Cultural differences. The Arikans do not value individuality in the way humans do. Their society is built on harmony and order, with a focus on collective achievement. They find the chaotic nature of human emotions and unpredictability both perplexing and fascinating. In contrast, humans' capacity for spontaneous action, creative thinking, and emotional depth are what make them uniquely dangerous, and perhaps, in the eyes of the Arikans, the greatest threat to their vision of a harmonious universe. As the chapter ends, the first real conflict of the story is established. Humanity must decide whether to submit to the Arikans' offer, with all its risks and rewards, or fight back against an enemy that outmatches them in every way. The stakes are high, and the tension is palpable, setting the stage for the unfolding battle of wits, wills, and hearts. The Arikans' offer to elevate humanity has left Earth in a precarious position. The United Nations convenes an emergency council to discuss humanity's response, and a team of diplomats, strategists, and military advisors begins to form a strategy. Dr. Samantha Juno, while still hopeful for a peaceful resolution, finds herself working alongside Captain Marcus Doyle, who is skeptical of diplomacy and convinced that humanity's independence is at risk. As the days pass, the atmosphere becomes increasingly tense on Earth and within the space station where the human delegation is housed. Dr. Juno begins to navigate the diplomatic waters, proposing a counteroffer to the Arikans' demands, an agreement for cooperation on mutual terms, where humanity would retain its autonomy while benefiting from the Arikans' technology. She's pushing the idea of a shared future, one where humans can keep their freedom, but the Arikans' response is less than hopeful. Meanwhile, Captain Doyle begins taking measures to fortify Earth's defenses in case diplomacy fails. An unexpected event further complicates matters when one of the alien ambassadors is killed during a covert operation meant to sabotage the aliens' communication system. The assassination attempt is traced back to human insurgents, leading to a breakdown in trust. What began as a tense negotiation now escalates into a full-scale diplomatic and military standoff. Key character developments. Dr. Samantha Juneau. As the pressure mounts, Juneau becomes more confident in her ability to navigate the political minefield. She begins to see that her only real weapon in this situation is humanity's ability to surprise. She pushes for a strategy that leans into the unpredictability of human decision-making, trying to convince the Arrakans that humanity's capacity for creative thinking could be a valuable asset in their shared future. Despite this, Juneau struggles with the emotional toll of the situation. She fears that humanity's fragility will become a weakness in the face of the Arrakans' overwhelming power. Captain Marcus Doyle. Doyle's skepticism toward diplomacy deepens as the situation grows more volatile. The more he observes the alien technology and the higher-ups' decision-making, the more he believes that humanity has only one option: preparation for war. However, Doyle's perspective begins to shift slightly when he sees the stakes of peace through Juneau's eyes. While he remains staunchly military in his thinking, he begins to respect Juneau's ability to manipulate the complex threads of diplomacy. He also becomes more empathetic to the human side of the equation, understanding that any conflict will come with severe loss, not just of life, but of humanity's future. The Arrakans. Zoreth, the lead ambassador of the Arrakans, remains an enigma. His race is ancient, and their technology reflects their advanced understanding of the universe. Zoreth's composed demeanor hides a quiet frustration as humanity seems resistant to their offer. Despite their immense power, the Arrakans are not accustomed to human unpredictability, which unnerves them. Zoreth sees potential in humanity, but his patience is running thin. Major conflicts or turning points. Diplomatic tensions rise. Dr. Juneau works tirelessly to formulate a diplomatic solution. She knows that the Arrakans' technology could change everything for humanity, but she also fears that it would come at the cost of their freedom. Juneau pushes for a middle ground. Humanity would accept some of the Arrakans' technology in exchange for autonomy and the ability to chart their own future. The Arrakans, however, do not understand humanity's reluctance to surrender to a higher power. Their mindset is built on order and unity. To them, human independence is an unsolvable problem. They fail to grasp the importance of human identity and autonomy, seeing it as a weakness rather than a strength. Captain Doyle prepares for war. While Juneau works tirelessly on diplomacy, Captain Doyle secretly assembles a military task force to prepare for a worst-case scenario. Humanity has no way to combat the Arrakans' superior technology directly, but Doyle begins to work on retrofitting human spacecraft with railguns, heavy, rapid-fire energy weapons designed to pierce the hulls of ships. He also ensures that the space station's defenses are upgraded, especially after learning about the Arrakans' ability to disrupt human technology with electromagnetic pulses. In a covert meeting with UN military officials, Doyle argues that humanity needs to be prepared to fight back. The weapons the Arrakans possess are devastating, but they are not invincible. With enough ingenuity and determination, humanity can create weapons of mass destruction. He begins planning the military logistics of a counterstrike, all while trying to keep these plans under wraps from the diplomatic team, especially Dr. Juneau, who believes in the power of negotiation. A failed assassination and betrayal. The situation escalates dramatically when a faction of human insurgents, opposed to the idea of any compromise with the Arrakans, launches a covert operation to sabotage the alien communications. The insurgents believe that humanity's only hope lies in fighting the Arrakans directly and in preventing any further dialogue. The assassination attempt is botched when one of the Arrakans' ambassadors is accidentally killed during the operation, sparking a brutal response from the Arrakans. The insurgents' attack leads to further distrust, and the Arrakans accuse the human delegation of collusion, setting off a wave of chaos. This tragic incident leads to the full suspension of peace talks and the complete breakdown of trust between the two parties. The Araucans, who were already wary of human unpredictability, see the assassination as proof that humanity is not trustworthy. Their response is swift and merciless. They demand the immediate arrest of those responsible for the attack and threaten to destroy major human cities unless the perpetrators are handed over. Public outcry and escalation. As tensions rise, the UN faces internal political strife. The world is divided. Some factions believe that the Araucans' technology is too valuable to ignore and that humanity should submit to the aliens' demands. Others, led by a growing number of military voices like Doyle's, argue that humanity must stand firm against the alien invaders, even at the cost of total destruction. Political leaders from around the world begin to argue publicly over what course of action to take. Dr. Juno finds herself isolated in the diplomatic process, with no clear way to regain the trust of the Araucans. Yet, she presses on, determined to find a peaceful solution even in the face of escalating violence. Her belief in human potential keeps her focused on the idea that humanity can outthink the Araucans and turn the tide of the negotiations. Emotional or thematic beats. Humanity's capacity for unpredictability. This chapter explores one of the key themes of the story, the complexity of human nature. The Araucans, with their advanced technology and seemingly perfect society, cannot understand the chaos of human emotion, politics, and resistance. Dr. Juno tries to explain that it is precisely humanity's unpredictability that makes them both dangerous and unique. This idea begins to resonate with her, even as the political and diplomatic situation grows more dire. The burden of leadership. Dr. Juno carries the weight of the negotiations on her shoulders. The fear that humanity could lose its autonomy weighs heavily on her, especially after the assassination attempt. She feels the weight of her responsibility to not just protect humanity's survival, but its spirit, its very identity. Her internal struggle becomes a central emotional beat as she pushes for peace, even as the situation grows more volatile. Sacrifice and honor. Captain Doyle, though primarily focused on the tactical side of the situation, also begins to feel the emotional weight of the conflict. He is no stranger to sacrifice, but seeing humanity on the brink of extinction forces him to question what it means to fight for a cause. Doyle's pragmatic approach contrasts with Juno's idealism, but both characters are confronted with the same question: what are they willing to sacrifice for humanity's survival? Relevant world-building elements. Araucans' culture. The Araucans have an almost rigid sense of order and hierarchy. Their society is centered around a collective understanding of the universe, where individualism is viewed with suspicion. This makes their interactions with humanity challenging, as they cannot fathom a race that values personal freedom above collective progress. Their approach to technology is less about exploration and more about control, order, and perfection. Human insurgency. The emergence of the insurgency reflects the deeper fractures within human society. The insurgents see the Araucans' presence as a form of colonization, believing that humanity must fight back and remain independent at all costs. This faction adds another layer of tension, showing that not all humans agree on how to handle the alien threat. As the chapter concludes, the divide between diplomacy and war grows ever wider. Humanity's very survival is at stake, and with each passing day, it seems more likely that the Araucans' offer will lead to either the destruction or the radical transformation of human society. You said. Summary of main events. The fragile peace between humanity and the Araucans has all but shattered after the assassination of one of the Araucans' ambassadors. Tensions are at an all-time high, with the threat of military retaliation hanging over Earth's major cities. The Araucans demand the immediate arrest of the insurgents who carried out the attack, but they also insist that humanity submit to their technological elevation or face extinction. In the midst of this escalating conflict, both Captain Marcus Doyle and Dr. Samantha Juno struggle to find a path that preserves humanity's dignity and autonomy. Dr. Juno has been sidelined, with her diplomatic efforts now dismissed by many as futile. She is forced to collaborate more closely with military leaders like Doyle, who believes that only through strength can humanity survive. However, Juno, still hopeful for a peaceful solution, finds herself in a race against time to prove that humanity's ingenuity can counter the alien threat. Meanwhile, Captain Doyle begins to see the need for a more radical approach. If humanity can't match the Arrakans' power, they'll have to outthink them. Using humanity's greatest asset, its unpredictability, Doyle proposes a daring plan to exploit the one thing the Arrakans cannot understand: human emotion. But in order for this plan to work, it requires an extraordinary gamble, an attack on the Arrakans' ship using an unconventional weapon, a weapon that humanity has kept hidden for years. As the chapter unfolds, Earth's military prepares for a counterstrike, and Dr. Juno uncovers a disturbing secret about the Arrakans' true intentions. Key character developments. Dr. Samantha Juno. With the diplomatic process at a standstill, Juno has no choice but to embrace a new role within the military team. Despite her discomfort with military strategies, she uses her intelligence and experience in negotiation to help Captain Doyle formulate a plan. Her perception of the situation evolves as she learns more about the Arrakans' true goals. Juno begins to question whether the Arrakans are genuinely interested in humanity's survival, or if they are using the elevation as a means to assimilate humanity into their collective society. Captain Marcus Doyle. Doyle's approach to leadership becomes more complex as the narrative progresses. While he initially focused solely on military tactics, he now starts to consider the psychological warfare that could give humanity the edge. Doyle's respect for Juno grows, though he remains steadfast in his belief that military action is the only solution. The tension between Doyle's pragmatism and Juno's idealism reaches a boiling point when he pushes forward with a high-risk plan to strike at the heart of the Arrakans' ship. The Arrakans' true agenda. Zorath, the Arrakans' ambassador, remains a calm and methodical leader, but beneath the surface, there's a growing anxiety. Zorath reveals that the Arrakans' true purpose is not just to elevate humanity. They intend to make humanity a part of their collective consciousness, erasing individuality in the process. Zorath believes that humanity's chaotic, unpredictable nature is a flaw, and the elevation is a necessary step to bring Earth into harmony with the universe. The Arrakans see themselves as the ultimate guardians of order and unity, and they view humanity's resistance as a dangerous disruption. Major conflicts or turning points. The military counterstrike. With the Arrakans growing impatient and increasingly hostile, Captain Doyle leads a small fleet of human ships into space, preparing a coordinated strike against the alien vessel. However, Doyle knows that human technology is no match for the Arrakans' advanced weaponry, so he plans to use tactics based on unpredictability and deception. Using a combination of stealth ships and jamming technology, the human fleet will attempt to confuse the Arrakans long enough to launch a direct assault on the alien ship's critical systems. However, the key to this strategy lies in an unconventional weapon, an experimental railgun that, while still in its infancy, has the potential to cause catastrophic damage to the Arrakans' ship. The weapon is one of humanity's best-kept secrets, developed over years of research but never fully deployed for fear of its unpredictability. The plan is a desperate gamble. Humanity will fire the railgun directly at the alien vessel's power core, hoping that it can disable the ship long enough for the Arrakans to reconsider their ultimatum. But if it fails, the retaliation will be swift and devastating. Juno discovers the truth. As Juno grows closer to Captain Doyle's military strategy, she begins to uncover more about the Arrakans' true nature. The initial offer of elevation was never a gift. It was an ultimatum cloaked in false benevolence. The Arrakans do not wish to coexist with humanity. They wish to control humanity. Juno uncovers a secret file detailing the Arrakans' plans to forcibly integrate humanity into their collective consciousness. Those who resist will be erased. This revelation shakes Juno to her core, and she realizes that the only way forward is to stop the Arrakans from achieving their goal of domination. Despite her growing respect for Doyle's tactical mind, Juno's internal conflict intensifies. She must choose between continuing her efforts at diplomacy, which now seem hopeless, or embracing the military strategy Doyle has developed. The realization that the Arrakans' true intention is not peace, but assimilation, pushes Juno to make a difficult decision. She must place her trust in humanity's capacity for resistance and adaptability. The attack on the Arakan ship, with the railgun weapon ready and the military fleet in position, Doyle's plan is set into motion. The human fleet uses stealth and advanced tactics to slip past the Arakan's defenses and position themselves near the alien ship's power core. The idea is simple but dangerous. Strike fast, hit hard, and hope that the Arakan's superiority in technology does not overwhelm them before they have a chance to deal a critical blow. The moment the railgun fires, the story reaches a high-stakes turning point. The weapon's blast hits the alien ship, causing massive damage to its outer hull and disrupting its internal systems. However, this success is fleeting. The Arakans retaliate with a devastating show of force, launching energy beams that disable several of the human fleet's ships. The battle grows chaotic as the human forces are forced into a desperate retreat. Emotional or thematic beats. The clash of ideals. As the plan unfolds, the emotional tension between Dr. Juno and Captain Doyle reaches its peak. Juno, still a believer in humanity's potential for peaceful coexistence, struggles with the military actions that are now necessary. She begins to see that there may be no other option but to fight back against the Arakans. Doyle, on the other hand, becomes more sympathetic to Juno's ideals, but he knows that military action is the only language the Arakans understand. Their relationship becomes more complex, marked by both mutual respect and deep ideological differences. Human ingenuity and unpredictability. The use of the railgun symbolizes humanity's greatest strength, its ability to think outside the box and use unconventional solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. The weapon, developed in secret, embodies the unpredictability that the Arakans fail to comprehend. They may have superior technology, but they do not understand humanity's creative capacity for turning the tide in impossible situations. Sacrifice for freedom. As the attack unfolds, it becomes clear that the human forces are not just fighting for survival, but for the freedom to remain who they are. The idea of losing humanity's individuality, of being absorbed into the Arakans' collective consciousness, becomes a powerful motivating force for both the military and civilian leaders. The emotional weight of this struggle is felt throughout the chapter as the human side is forced to sacrifice lives and resources to protect their future. Relevant world-building elements. The railgun technology, humanity's secret railgun, is one of their most advanced technologies, a project that has been under development for decades. Its power lies in the ability to fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light, capable of piercing the thickest armor. However, the weapon is unstable, and its full potential has never been tested on such a large scale. The fact that humanity has this weapon in its arsenal is both a blessing and a curse. It provides a chance to fight back, but it is also a symbol of the extremes humanity is willing to go to preserve its freedom. The Arakans' collective consciousness. The true nature of the Arakans' collective society is revealed. They do not value individuality. The Arakans' technological and societal structure is based on unity, but it comes at the cost of personal freedom. This philosophy of collective harmony and absolute control is central to their identity, and it stands in stark contrast to humanity's chaotic, unpredictable nature. As the chapter concludes, the human fleet retreats after suffering heavy losses, but the success of the railgun strike has dealt a major blow to the Arakans. The battle is far from over, and the cost of humanity's resistance is mounting. The story reaches a new level of intensity, with the future of humanity hanging in the balance. Summary of main events. In the aftermath of the brutal military counterattack, Earth's military is in disarray. The Arakans have retaliated with overwhelming force, leaving the remnants of humanity's fleet scattered and weakened. However, the devastating railgun strike on the alien ship has not been without consequences. It has damaged critical systems within the Arakans' vessel and disrupted their planned conquest of Earth, buying humanity a fragile moment of hope. But as Earth's leaders prepare for the inevitable final clash, they are faced with a decision that could either secure their survival or destroy them entirely. Dr. Samantha Juno, now fully integrated into the military team, is forced to reckon with the consequences of their actions. With the battle becoming increasingly dire, Juno's resolve to fight for humanity's freedom is tested as she discovers that the Arrakans' forces are preparing to launch a final assault, an assault that will annihilate Earth if humanity cannot find a way to counter it. Juno uncovers an unexpected weakness in the alien forces, something the Arrakans never anticipated: the humanity they underestimated. But to exploit this weakness, humanity must execute one last, dangerous operation: infiltrate the heart of the Arrakans' command ship and disable their power core from within. Captain Marcus Doyle, having grown more sympathetic to Juno's vision of human ingenuity, agrees to lead a daring mission deep into the enemy ship. The plan requires a mixture of covert tactics, brute force, and an unpredictable edge, a strategy the Arrakans cannot understand. But time is running out and the stakes couldn't be higher. Doyle and Juno must now rely on the very unpredictability that the Arrakans feared to succeed. However, as the operation progresses, both will face challenges that question their own survival and the future of humanity. Key character developments. Dr. Samantha Juno. Juno's evolution from a diplomatic negotiator to a hardened strategist comes full circle. While still advocating for humanity's survival, she has come to accept that only by embracing the unexpected and chaotic nature of humanity can they outmaneuver the Arrakans. Her intellectual and emotional growth are at the core of this chapter. As she faces the overwhelming reality that humanity's freedom is truly at risk, Juno becomes a symbol of both hope and resolve, pushing the limits of human ingenuity and leadership. Captain Marcus Doyle. Doyle's transformation continues as he works alongside Juno in a final effort to save Earth. His military mindset, always focused on tactics and victory, now includes a deeper understanding of what humanity stands to lose. He is no longer just fighting for survival, he's fighting for humanity's autonomy. While still relying on military precision, Doyle now sees the value in Juno's unpredictable approach and comes to realize that it is this very unpredictability that can be their greatest weapon. Zoreth, the Arrakans' ambassador, Zoreth, is revealed to have deeper motivations than originally assumed. He truly believes that humanity's chaotic nature is a threat to the balance of the universe. He remains convinced that assimilation is humanity's only hope, even as his forces suffer losses. Zoreth's confidence begins to waver, but his commitment to his species' ideology remains unshaken. His refusal to accept humanity's unpredictability ultimately seals his fate. Major conflicts or turning points. The decision to infiltrate. With the Arrakans preparing for a full-scale assault on Earth, the final chance for survival lies in a covert operation to infiltrate the alien flagship, disable its core, and cripple the Arrakans' ability to launch their attack. This is humanity's last-ditch effort to survive. The military's remaining forces, severely weakened from the previous battle, must rely on a team of elite soldiers and the scientific expertise of Dr. Juno. Juno and Doyle are both deeply aware of the risks involved. To execute the mission, they must slip past highly advanced Arrakans' defenses, bypass their security systems, and disable the power core that controls their fleet. The odds are slim, but humanity's adaptability is their only advantage. In this final operation, Doyle's military strategy will merge with Juno's belief in the unpredictable nature of human tactics. The infiltration. The mission begins under cover of darkness, as the remaining human fleet, now scattered, creates a diversion to distract the Arrakans long enough for a small infiltration team to board the flagship. Juno, Doyle, and a few hand-picked soldiers must rely on stealth, sabotage, and sheer willpower to make their way to the heart of the alien ship. Along the way, they encounter multiple obstacles: advanced Arrakans technology, overwhelming security, and the threat of total annihilation. As they advance through the corridors of the Arrakans' vessel, Doyle's military expertise and Juno's quick thinking lead to a series of close calls. The team must improvise, using human ingenuity to survive in a technological environment that constantly shifts and adapts to their presence. The final confrontation. As the team reaches the core of the Arrakan ship, they are met by Zoreth himself, who appears in an effort to stop them. Zoreth's belief in his species' superiority over humanity is at its peak, and he tries to persuade Juno and Doyle to abandon the mission. He argues that the Arikans' way of life, order, unity, and collective progress is the only true path for any species to survive in the universe. But Juno and Doyle stand firm. They argue that humanity's value lies not in perfect order, but in chaos, creativity, and the pursuit of individuality. Zorith, deeply convinced that humanity cannot be allowed to remain independent, engages them in a final battle, one that pits human tenacity against the might of the Arikans' advanced technology. Zorith tries to use his abilities to manipulate the ship's environment, controlling the very systems around them, but he underestimates humanity's ability to adapt to the unpredictable. Doyle, using every tactic in his military arsenal, and Juno, employing her knowledge of human resilience, manage to disable the core and render Zorith's control over the ship useless. The Arikans, now crippled, cannot recover from the blow. Zorith is forced to retreat, and the remaining Arikans are thrown into disarray. Emotional or thematic beats. Humanity's resilience. The central theme of this chapter is humanity's resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Whether through military tactics or sheer willpower, Juno and Doyle show that human determination, creativity, and unpredictability are what allow them to stand up to the Arikans. This battle, more than any previous one, highlights humanity's spirit, one that refuses to be controlled or crushed, no matter the superior force arrayed against them. The nature of freedom. Juno and Doyle's final decision to infiltrate the Arikans' ship and fight for humanity's survival underscores the importance of freedom. Juno, in particular, has learned to value the unpredictable nature of humanity, understanding that it is this very chaos that gives humans the ability to adapt and thrive. The Arikans cannot understand this, and that lack of understanding is what ultimately leads to their downfall. For Juno and Doyle, the battle is not just about survival, it's about ensuring that humanity remains free to define its own future. The end of the Arikans' dream. Zorith's ideology, that order and unity through assimilation are the only paths to survival, falls apart in the face of human ingenuity. The Arikans' greatest weakness is their inability to understand the power of individuality. In the end, the Arikans' attempt to force humanity into a collective consciousness is thwarted, and their dream of universal order is shattered. Zorith's failure to assimilate humanity reveals the fundamental flaw in his species' thinking. Relevant world-building elements. The Arikans' technology. The alien ship is revealed to have highly advanced technology that manipulates its own environment. It has energy shields, teleportation fields, and artificial gravity manipulation, all of which provide constant threats to the infiltration team. The Arikans' technology works in tandem with their collective consciousness, making them more efficient but also more predictable and less adaptable. Human ingenuity in crisis. The final operation demonstrates humanity's greatest strength, its ability to improvise and adapt in dire situations. The railgun, previously a secret weapon, is just one example of human ingenuity. This final chapter emphasizes that, while humanity may lack the raw power of the Arikans, it has the unique ability to think creatively and push beyond the boundaries of conventional tactics. Climactic conclusion. As the core of the Arikans' ship powers down, Earth is granted a moment of hope. The alien threat has been neutralized, and humanity's independence has been preserved. The final confrontation has not just been a victory of military might, but a victory of human spirit, ingenuity, and unpredictability. In the aftermath, Juno and Doyle stand together, knowing that the battle has been won, but the war is far from over. The Arikans, though defeated, will not forget this encounter. But for now, humanity is free to determine its own future, a future where they will continue to defy expectations, adapt to challenges, and remain the masters of their own fate. The final words of the chapter echo the theme that runs through the entire story. Humanity doesn't just survive the unknown, it shapes it.